Prince Harry has everyone confused right now, and honestly, I get it. Did he get his security back? Did he lose his appeal again? Why is nobody giving a straight answer? Because here's the thing, the answer is sitting right there in front of us. And once you see how the British government is dancing around this question, you're going to understand exactly what's going on. So let me set the scene. Everyone knows Harry lost his court case. That happened back in May 2025 when 3 Court of Appeal judges dismissed his claim and ruled that the government security decision was sensible. That part is old news. We knew that. The court basically said, RAVEC, that's the executive committee that handles protection for royalty and public figures, had every right to make its own independent decision that they hadn't broken any laws and that the government trusts RAVEC's assessment. Done. Settled. Case closed. But that's all what people have been waiting for. And this is where the confusion comes in, because a lot of commentary out there keeps repeating Harry lost his legal bid, like it's breaking news. No. The thing everyone has actually been waiting on is something completely different, a fresh, independent security review. Because after Harry lost in court, he didn't just go home and accept it. Of course he didn't. He wrote directly to the Home Office in late 2025 asking for a brand new risk assessment. And here's where it gets genuinely strange. The Home Secretary then wrote to RAVEC and told them to carry it out. Sit with that for a second. The courts had already ruled. The judges had already said RAVEC's process was lawful and sound. RAVEC is supposed to be an independent body that doesn't take marching orders from the Home Office. And yet the Home Secretary stepped in anyway and essentially said, do the review. And RAVEC did it. The word was that by early January, we would find out whether Harry's security was getting upgraded or not. Well, look at the calendar. We are in June. Nothing. Not a word. Total silence. So an insider, Lauren, actually went and contacted them directly to ask the simple question, does Harry have security or not? And the response she got back was a masterclass in saying absolutely nothing. They said it's their long-standing policy not to provide detailed information on security arrangements because doing so could compromise their integrity and affect individual safety. And then, and this is the part that made my jaw drop, they said these decisions are taken by RAVEC on behalf of the government, not by the Home Secretary, and that the Home Secretary does not contribute to individual RAVEC decisions. Excuse me? The Home Secretary doesn't contribute, then why did RAVEC follow her order to carry out a review in the first place? You cannot have it both ways. Either you're independent and the Home Secretary's instructions mean nothing to you, or you jump when she says jump, which is exactly what happened. The whole justification falls apart the moment you put those two facts side by side, and the refusing to answer thing is pure word salad. It's like asking someone, do you drink Coca-Cola? And them going, well, I can't tell you whether I drink it or not because I don't want to give away the recipe. Nobody asked for the recipe. Yes or no? Does the man have security? That's it. That's the whole question. So I wasn't satisfied with that. And I called them myself. I sent an email first. No reply. So I picked up the phone, and what they told me was that at this point in time, they are not willing to give out any information regarding the security arrangements of Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex. Their exact framing. Now, let me translate that for you because I've worked in diplomacy and I know this language. When an institution refuses to confirm or deny something this publicly contested, after this much public pressure, that evasiveness is the answer. This entire saga has played out in the open. Harry sued the government publicly. Harry aired his grievances publicly. Harry disclosed private court details and private emails. It was public knowledge when the Home Secretary ordered RAVEC to do the assessment. Every single step of this has been in the daylight until now. Until the moment when the result has to be announced. Suddenly, everyone goes quiet and hides behind long-standing policy. Governments do this when they're sitting on news the public is not going to swallow. News they know will cause outrage. And reading between the lines, what that silence tells me is that Harry is very likely getting full security when he goes back. They just don't want to be the ones to stand up and say it out loud because they know exactly how British taxpayers are going to react to that. And the timing here matters. Because remember, where the Invictus Games are headed, Birmingham, £26.6 million. Let me translate that for my American viewers. That's about $35 million. So there is a very real, very expensive event on the horizon where Harry is going to be on UK soil. And the question of who pays to protect him is not hypothetical anymore. Now, to understand why this whole situation is so maddening, you have to go back to where it started. Because Harry's entire argument rests on one idea, that this protection is his birthright. That because he was born into the royal family, taxpayer-funded security follows him around the planet forever. And that is simply not how any of this works. You have a right to a happy home, to breathe, to vote, to speak. You do not have a right to private security paid for by other people. That was always a perk of being a working royal, and perks are discretionary, like a company car or a catered lunch. They come with the job. And Harry famously quit the job. So let's rewind, because the timeline here tells you everything about how we ended up in this mess. Back at the Sandringham summit, the Queen herself told Harry not to rush. She said these details need to be sorted out properly. There are a lot of things that have to be looked at. His own grandmother, who, let's remember, was not in good health at the time, was trying to slow him down and protect him from his own decision. And did Harry listen? Of course Harry didn't listen. He was desperate to go. He'd convinced himself he was bigger than the institution, more popular than William, untouchable. So instead of taking the Queen's advice, he put an ultimatum on the table. Either you give me what I want, or we're out. And the Queen called his bluff. Harry and Meghan made that announcement on Instagram. We're leaving, and here's our list of demands. We're keeping taxpayer-funded security wherever we go. We want this status, that money, and we'll be half in and half out, doing the royal stuff when it suits us. And the palace's answer was crystal clear. There's no half in, half out. If you leave, the perks that come with being a working royal end. It was spelled out for him in black and white. He just refused to believe it applied to him because his entire life the palace had cleaned up his messes, smoothed over his scandals, handled everything he assumed they always would. So Harry storms off to Canada. And while he's sitting in Canada, he gets the news, your time as a working royal ends on this date, and your security goes with it. Then comes the famous moment, 6 a.m. On the 14th of March, 2020, what they called the Freedom Flight, off to California, which, let's be honest, was always the real destination. And here's the part I find genuinely revealing about how Harry's mind works. He gets to the United States and is apparently shocked to discover that the royal family isn't going to bankroll his protection anymore because it's enormously expensive, especially for two people who want to fly all over the world. And think about why he never saw this coming. Harry grew up never having to organize a single thing for himself. The reason his security always ran so smoothly as a working royal is that the protection teams knew his schedule far in advance. That's how this works. That's how they prepare. Harry never understood that because Harry never had to understand anything. The machine just functioned around him his whole life, and he mistook that machine for a birthright. So he doesn't get the protected status he wanted, he doesn't get the half and half out arrangement, and what happens next? Oprah. That interview, in my opinion, was leverage dressed up as a sit-down. The strategy was obvious. Trash the family publicly, throw out the most explosive claims possible, and pressure the palace into caving and handing back what was taken away. Apply enough public humiliation, and surely they'll fold. Except they didn't fold. Harry still didn't get it. So when the public pressure campaign failed, he went legal. January 2022. Harry files his first formal claim against the UK government challenging RAVEC's decision. And his big offer was, fine, I'll pay for my own police protection. Sounds reasonable on the surface, right? Except think about what he was actually asking for. He wanted to privately hire active serving police officers. You can't do that. The police are paid for by taxpayers. They're not a rental service for wealthy individuals who don't fancy the cost of a private security firm. But Harry, who has never had to pay his own way for anything, didn't grasp how the system worked. He looked at police wages in the UK, compared them to what a proper private security firm charges, and thought, well, obviously, I'll take the cheaper option that isn't actually available to me. And let's also ask the obvious question nobody around Harry seemed to ask. Why is a man who doesn't live in the United Kingdom, a man who said he gets palpitations just landing in London, who has made it abundantly clear he can't stand the place, fighting this hard for police protection there? I'll tell you what I think the play was, because we always talk straight here. The UK case was the foothold. If Harry could establish the principle that he's entitled to state protection in Britain because of who his father is, because of who he was born as, then he extends that argument everywhere. If you have to protect me in the United Kingdom, then logically you have to protect me in the United States and everywhere else I go. That's the prize. That's what this was always really about. And the sheer arrogance of the legal argument itself gets me. Harry wasn't just asking for a different outcome. He was challenging whether RAVEC was even qualified to make these decisions. An institution whose entire specialty, whose entire reason for existing is assessing threat levels and deciding who needs protection. And here comes Harry, a man who has never held down an ordinary job in his life, never paid his own bills, telling the experts they don't know how to do the one thing they do. Because at the core of all of this is one painful truth Harry cannot accept. He is not as important as he thinks he is. RAVEC looked at the actual threat picture and made a case-by-case judgment instead of handing him automatic status-based protection and being told, in effect, you don't warrant this. That's his worst fear staring back at him. February 2024, the High Court dismisses his claim and rules RAVEC's bespoke case-by-case approach was perfectly lawful. He appeals. May 2025. 3 Court of Appeal judges throw it out and call the government's decision sensible. Strike 2, strike 3. And then comes the BBC interview, which honestly might be my favorite chapter of this whole saga, because Harry sits there and says nobody warned him he could lose. Nobody warned him. What were his lawyers doing this entire time? Because here's what I genuinely believe was going on in Harry's head through all of this. He never thought it would get to a final ruling. He thought the palace would do what the palace always did. Step in, smooth it over, make the problem disappear. He wanted his father, the king, to lean on the process and make this go away in his favor. And when that didn't happen, when the institution actually let the courts be courts, Harry went on the BBC and spun it into something much darker, suggesting that the people on the other side effectively want him harmed. He talked about not wanting history to repeat itself and claimed that through the disclosure process he discovered some people do want history to repeat itself. That is an enormous thing to say out loud, and notice how it conveniently reframes the entire story. Suddenly it's not, Harry lost a legal argument about perks. It's Harry is in danger, and the establishment doesn't care. He also said something in that interview that I actually find fascinating because it accidentally tells on his whole worldview. He said security was used as leverage, that it can be used to control members of the family, that it effectively imprisons them from choosing a different life. And look, flip that around. What he's really describing is that the perks were conditional on the job, and he hates that. He wanted the different life and the perks. He was told directly in writing that you can't have both. Choosing freedom meant giving up the package that came with the role. Calling that imprisonment is just Harry refusing to accept that choices have cost. And while we're on cost, has Harry paid back the roughly $2 million in legal fees he was ordered to pay to the government after losing? Because that's not palace money. That's not abstract money. That is UK taxpayers' money that got burned in his quest to win back a perk. Hardworking people in Britain funded both sides of a court fight about whether one of the wealthiest men in the country gets free bodyguards. And the interviewer even put it to him plainly. The court gave 4 reasons, and a major one is that his status changed, that he's no longer a working royal. Do you accept that? And Harry's answer, after stumbling through it, was essentially, my status hasn't changed. Whether I have an official role or not is irrelevant to my security needs. That's the whole delusion in one sentence. His status absolutely changed. That was the entire point of leaving. He just wants the title without the timetable, the protection without the position. And speaking of titles, he still has them. The king has allowed Harry to keep his titles. They're still sitting right there on the royal website, which honestly baffles me given everything. That alone should tell you the family hasn't been nearly as cruel to him as the narrative suggests. Plenty of royals further down the line walk around without taxpayer-funded protection and manage just fine, by the way. Harry is not uniquely abandoned. He's uniquely loud about it. Now, why does the outcome of this quiet little review matter so much? Because of what Harry is actually chasing. Yes, right now he has a workaround. He can come to the UK with 28 days notice and security gets arranged case by case. But what he wants is the full protected status. And if the United Kingdom grants Harry and Meghan that status, understand what that means. It's not a UK thing, it's a worldwide thing. Every country they visit, every country they live in would be expected to provide protection accordingly. Other people's taxes, everywhere they go, indefinitely. That's the end game. And that's why the government's silence right now is so loaded. They ordered a review they didn't need to order for a private citizen living on another continent, and now they won't say what came of it. In my book, institutions don't go this quiet over a no. So that's where Harry's saga stands. And while all of that noise has been going on, let's talk about the contrast happening on the other side of this family, because it's night and day. People keep demanding updates on Princess Catherine. How is she doing? Why aren't we hearing more? Don't we have a right to know? And the honest answer is, no, we don't. Her representative told Page 6 this week that she's doing well and they're not giving any more updates. That's it. That's the statement. And according to the Times, Prince William has been finding the level of social media commentary around his family genuinely difficult lately. And frankly, I'll say what William can't. It's none of our business. Catherine and her team asked for one thing, privacy, and they were clear about the timeline they needed. And here's my hot take on why people even expect more. Harry and Meghan spent 4 years oversharing everything, and it completely warped expectations of what royals owe the public. Harry's memoir, the Netflix series, Meghan writing about her miscarriage in the New York Times. Whatever you think of those choices, they are not how working royals operate, and they never were. Catherine is the old standard. Never complain, never explain. You will not catch her doing a media tour fishing for sympathy over her health. She took the hits, kept quiet, and carried on. That stoicism, that strength, is exactly why she'll make a remarkable queen one day. One brother turned his family into content. The other side of the family went silent precisely when silence was hardest. So now I want to hear from you, beautiful people. Why would RAVEC follow the Home Secretary's order to review Harry's security if RAVEC is truly independent of the Home Office? Why are they refusing to give Lauren, or me, or anyone a straight answer? Does their silence tell you what it tells me? That Harry quietly got his security back and nobody wants to announce it? Or do you think he walked away with nothing and they're simply letting him down gently? Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's right? Drop your thoughts below, because the answer, I suspect, is already staring all of us in the face.